For those of you who are joining us on our live streams across the world on YouTube and Facebook, welcome to round 13 and 14 of the TCR International Series. We are in Russia on the coast, on the border of the Black Sea, and it is a stunning day to go racing. We have poleman Stefano Camini, his first pole position of the 2016 season. And he lines up against his main championship rival from his title-winning year last year, Pepe Oriola. Volkswagen given a slight break this weekend with a slightly lower ride height. And this circuit very much helping them as well. A very fast circuit. And you can see Oriola will line up against Camini on the front row of the grid. Vernet and Morbidelli will be on row 2, meaning we have all three manufacturers. We've got all four manufacturers in the top 5 positions because Peter Fullin in the Alfa Romeo starts in 5th spot, meaning we have Honda, Volkswagen, Seat and Alfa in the top 5. Borkovic is 6th. James Nash will start 7th. He's equal, or was equal on points with Pepe Oriola coming into this weekend. And then the other man who was fighting at the top of the championship coming into the weekend, Matto Homola, starts only in 9th position, but crucially that is on the front row of the grid for the second race of our weekend when we have the reverse top 10. Survival for the first race first, and a collection of points too. Pepe Oriola getting himself ready, as you can see, already sweating. It is boiling, absolutely boiling, outside of the car. When we had the autograph session this morning, all the drivers complaining about the heat despite being under umbrellas. The concern is inside the car. Obviously, perspex around the car amplifying the heat, and it's going to get very hot inside. Here is the entry list. We've got Rakhmatulin from Russia and Sheshinin also as wildcards for this weekend. One for West Coast Honda, one for Liqui-Moly Team Enxler. And they both race in the National Series, one in the National Light and one in the National Touring Car Championship, and then the regular 13 drivers that we've seen throughout the championship so far this year. In fact, Rakhmatulin was in this race last year. He raced for West Coast Honda, and he picked up some points, in fact, because he finished his second race in 10th position. So looking to improve on that. There's James Nash. Equal on points coming into the weekend, as I said, but didn't pick up any points in qualifying. That could become pretty crucial at the end of the year for James. He does admit that his qualifying pace over one lap is not quite there, but he's more consistent throughout the race distance in terms of preserving the tyres. And he's now 4 points back because Oriola picked up 4 points in qualifying for taking second spot. Matto Homola also didn't take any points, so he drops a few points back. Stefano Camini took 5 and therefore is now kind of in the hunt for the championship. Obviously, we've still got a lot of races to come. We've still got something like 300 points available, so plenty to play for. And things do seem to change pretty rapidly in the TCR International Series. So all the way down to, say, Borkovic really have a mathematical chance of being involved in the championship fight come Macau at the end of the season. Mikhail Grashov, another of the Russian contingent. Local, well, he doesn't really consider this a home track, although he is Russian. He lives so far away from here. But enjoying being here anyway. Matto Homola there, 3rd position in the championship, only 9th. B3 Racing have found a great setup for the cold conditions, but it is not cold here at all, and they think they just struggle a little bit with setup in the warmer conditions. Jean-Carl Vernet will start the first race P3 behind his teammate, starting to settle into TCR and touring car racing. This is his first season of front-wheel drive and the sort of rough and tumble of touring car, and it's took him a few races to get used to how much touching you're able to do. He got himself disqualified in the first weekend of the year in Bahrain for a bit too much contact, and so he is getting himself probably accustomed now. Race day in Sochi. Even more sun and even more heat for the sunbathers beside the Black Sea, but also for the drivers of the TCR International Series, rounds 13 and 14 coming up for you. This city of Sochi, a favourite holiday destination for Vladimir Putin, hence the Olympics came here in 2014. It's a 5.8 kilometre Formula One circuit, now named the Sochi Autodrome. And the TCR International cars take about 2 minutes and 20 seconds to get around the lap. Therefore, we have a 11-lap encounter for you this afternoon. Once again, a look at the grid. Stefano Camini and Pepe Ariola, championship rivals in 2015, championship contenders in 2016, line up alongside each other on the front row of the grid. Jean Calvinet behind his teammate on row 2, Gianni Morbidelli, best of the Hondas, in 4th, and Peter Fullin in the Alfa Romeo starts P5. Looking further down, championship contender Matto Homola, only 9th for the first race. If he keeps it clean, he'll have a front row start for race 2. Sergei Afanasiev, disappointed with 11th for both the races. A lot of Russians on the second page of our graphic. That will not please our fans here, but plenty of Russians to cheer about. So, air temperature apparently only 28 degrees. It feels a lot hotter than that. Humidity is pretty high. Track temperature, scorchio, 51 degrees. A real challenge to keep those tyres working. The time ticks down to 12:30 local time, and when it does so, we will head around for the warm-up lap. Stefano Camini leads the cars around then. First job to get the brakes and the tyres up to temperature. No tyre warmers in this series, and therefore it's all about the preparation you do on this first lap. You won't see as much aggressive weaving as we've seen in previous events because it is so hot. And actually, we've got a good amount of support races on the circuit this weekend, and we also have a pretty good amount of rubber down on the circuit. Oriola has an interesting little technique for warming the tyres because he rides the handbrake not only to warm the rear brakes, but also it gets the car sideways and he can scrub those rear tyres. As you can see, almost doing what looks like burnouts in a rear-wheel drive car, that red and black Seat Lukoil. Last year, it was one of those particular cars that took victory in the hands of Jordi Genet in race 1, and then Stefano Camini in a target competition run. Seat took the victory in the second race. Dusan Borkovic's wife on the left-hand side there. I don't know who that is. But Mrs. Borkovic enjoying the atmosphere of the Sochi Autodrome. Amazing to think, despite these pictures showing you a very intense racetrack, just over the barriers here, not only are the facilities for the 2014 Winter Olympics, but also a beach resort and a great place to come and enjoy that kind of Ibiza atmosphere. In fact, you can just see it in the background there. That is the sea. Just in the background, there's a beach, there's loads of beach clubs, and the drivers enjoyed some volleyball on Friday night, which became incredibly competitive. Although we are in the Winter Olympic Park, the mountains are some 70 kilometers away from here. All of the stadium events were held around what they describe as a street circuit, but I've noticed the name of the circuit changed 3 times in the 3 years it's existed, and the street bit has been dropped. There's no white lines. This circuit is a permanent circuit. It just means that the walls are pretty close and pretty unforgiving. If you do make a mistake, there's not a lot of runoff area, and there's certainly no grass or gravel to be seen anywhere. In fact, the area that we're in is called Krasnaya Polinya. That is the resort settlement where the Olympic Park was created. These were access roads for the Winter Olympics and then were converted into a racetrack a few weeks later. That's the Georgian flag. We are pretty much on the Georgian border. And so a home race for David Kajaya, who is well celebrated in Georgia for many different championship wins, supported by the Georgian Tourism Board, and lots of excitement perhaps for the 2017 season, where TCR is looking to take the International Series to Georgia. International motorsport in Georgia, not something you've heard of before. Why not come and break new ground? It's exactly what the TCR Series is all about. For the final part of the lap then, turns 15, 16, 17 and 18, effectively lots of 90-degree turns that turn around the paddock area. So on the left-hand side there is the paddock. Good afternoon, ladies. And this is around the back of the paddock area. That then brings us round to the start-finish straight. And turn 1 is a long, sweeping right-hand turn, which is flat out in any kind of motor car. So the first braking zone is actually turn 2, that chicane that causes so many problems. Low curbs here, so track limits is an issue. So a couple of drivers losing their fastest laps in qualifying.
Good morning.
Okay. it's the afternoon now. It's the afternoon. Such a great atmosphere with the whole team. The Italian Run Championship, obviously, maybe not quite as smiley after the results of the football last night. But there are a few Germans in the TCR International team, including the scrutineers. So they may be in good spirits this afternoon. Cars pulling up onto the grid then. Michele Ceruti is the last of our 15 runners. And once she's in position, the race director can get us underway. Five lights are on. When they go off, we are racing. It's a short lights. Very slow start from Sergei Afanasiev, who is stalled on the grid, so he drops to last. At the front, though, it's Stefano Camini, who claims the advantage. Oriola goes side by side with Jean Carbonet. He'll have the inside line going into the first braking zone, but Gianni Morbidelli makes it 3 wide as they come down to turn 2. Morbidelli in the Honda has the advantage. He's got Karashov. He's going to follow him through if he can. Fullin is still there. Wow, still 3 wide, 4 wide further back. A little bit of contact is Dusan Borkovic gets squeezed onto the curb. One of the cars further back, skipping the chicane. Stefano Camini has the advantage. Morbidelli second, Oriola third. John Carmonet's dropped down to 4th position. Then it's James Nash, and then Mikhail Grashov. Through turn 4, accelerating now towards the braking zone at turn 5. Camini, Morbidelli, and Oriola, your top 3. Michele Ceruti making her way up through the field at the back. She's made up 3 positions already, and now past one of the B3 racing cars, which I presume is probably Attila Tassi. It's all settled down at the front of the field, though. The top 6 positions, 7 positions, filtering their way through. And then Peter Fullin in the Alfa Romeo has David Kajaya behind him and Mato Homla. There's Dusan Borkovic. And Borkovic is in 6th position. What's Karashov doing on the right-hand side there? Has he run wide? He may well have done. He's completely offline. I don't know whether he's trying to defend or trying to find some airflow. Cooling of these cars is going to be an issue when running in a slipstream. The airflow through the front of the car cools the turbo. That's really, really important. And it also cools the brakes. And if you've got hot air coming off the car in front and then into those cooling areas, it's going to cause the temperatures of the car to absolutely soar. So it is important to duck out of the slipstream when you can. And if the engine management system is too sensitive and the heat gets too much in the engine bay, then that will turn the engine down. It will have less power, and therefore the slipstream won't work at all. Completion of lap 1 then. Stefano Camini, Gianni Morbidelli, Pepe Oriola, Jean Calvinet, James Nash, Mikhail Grashov, Dusan Volkovic, Peter Fullin, David Kajai and Matto Homler, the top 10. Nash looking to try and find a way past Jean Calvinet. Still, Mikhail Grashov well offline. He's going to dirty his tyres by doing that. He's not going to have as much traction through some of these corners, especially this long left-hander at turn 3 around the Olympic rings that are just on the inside there behind the timing screen. And you don't want dirty tyres here because the tyres and the car is going to slide around over the surface of the road. That'll cause extra temperature on the surface of the tyre, and then you'll have problems. Stefano Camini has an advantage of around a second over Gianni Morbidelli and then Oriola. That's one of the Olympic stadiums, the Armadillo that it's affectionately known as. Window down for Gianni Morbidelli, trying to get a little bit of temperature into the car. He always said he doesn't like it too hot in the car. However fit he is, he doesn't like the car to be hot, and he's made a slight mistake there. Oriola's got an advantage. He's run through the corner with a bit more pace, but can't find a way through under braking. Now the long run down from turn 10 through to the braking zone of turn 13. Again, Grashov well offline, can't be doing his tyres any good. Turn through this left-hander at turn 12 and then get on the brakes and try and get the car straightened up as much as possible. Oriola down the inside, lovely move, lovely move. Now round the fire station that's on the inside of turns 13, 14, 15 and 16. Will Gianni Morbidelli pounce back under braking? Oh, he's a little bit later on the brakes, he's right close. Look how close the two of them are. But for the moment can't find a way through. That battling is allowing Camini a little bit more of an advantage. And he can start to relax and just get a consistent rhythm in the Volkswagen Golf. So far this season, Oriola has 3 wins under his belt. Here is a replay of the start then. Oh, it was a good start from Oriola. Very poor from Sergei Afanasiev, who stalls at the back. And it was a lovely, also a great start from Mikhail Grashov. This was a move, Oriola down the inside of Morbidelli, and he just eased himself off. He was on the brakes, but he eased himself off the brake to allow him to slide down the inside. Fullin and Kajaya go side by side, and that's Fullin passing Kajaya for 7th position. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Oriola has made a little bit of a gap on Morbidelli. James Nash in 5th. And now Fullin up to 7th spot, Kajaya down to 8th. And it's Matto Homler just behind in 9th spot. And actually 10th is now Vladimir Sheshin. So that's great news into the points for Vladimir. And actually, why is Jean Calvinet down there in... He came across the line in 12th position. Why is he lost so many spots? Vinay out of the points in 11th position there, behind Vladimir Sheshinin. And he should have been running up in, what was it, 4th spot, I think? So, at some point when we were watching those replays, Jean Calvinet has had a mistake. Attack from Dusan Borkovic on Mikhail Grashov for 5th position now. They're going side by side at the back of shot. Grashov's preferred line is to be over there. Dusan Borkovic is on the racing line. Grashov has got the inside line. The Honda seems to have the legs on the Seat into the braking zone, and Borkovic isn't quite close enough, although we know he is last of the late breakers. We've seen that in Salzburg and in Oschersleben. Oh, there's no space there, Dusan. You can't find a way through, but he has. He's muscled his way through at turn 14. He now has the inside line for 15, and Grashov is going to have to let him have that place for the moment. Goes in a little bit hot, though, to 16. Grashov will have the advantage coming into the final 2 corners. And that then looks like it's settled. Borkovic then up to 5th spot. Grashov just doing a little bit of grass cutting on the exit of the final turn then. I wonder whether he has got temperature issues from the very start of the race, because he's constantly moving around out out of the slipstream of the car in front, off the racing line completely, and it is dirtier over there. And there are more bugs as well. We've got a big problem with locusts this weekend. And you should have seen the front bumper of Mikhail Grashov's car on Friday when they did some photography. Did one lap and completely covered the radiator full of locusts and caused overheating problems. Oh, he's so much stronger through turn 3. Closing the gap to Dusan Borkovic, who's already maybe struggling a little bit with oversteer. Peter Fullin also doing a little bit of zigging around to try and cool his engine. And here is the battle for what was 10th spot, but Vinay is up to 10th now, Sheshin down to 11th, and Sergei Afanasiev and Attila Tassi are there now. Sheshin in, and Tassi looks to the inside, but can't find a way through there. Jean-Carl Vinay runs a little bit wide on the exit, but he has moved up to P10 now. He's got some work to do in his Volkswagen. We know it's fast. He qualified P3, but he made a mistake somewhere and dropped out of the points. False start investigation for Mikhail Grashov. It was a very good start, but I'm not quite sure whether it was a false start. We'll find out. Race direction will be looking at the replay that we had, and maybe it was a false start. Let me know. I'm on Twitter at Ben Consti if you want to tell me that I'm saying things wrong or pronouncing things wrong. Already had Sergei Fedorov asking me to pronounce his Russian drivers' names correctly. Absolutely fair enough. Lap 4 then. Here is Stefano Camini coming through the final turn to complete that lap and move into the second half of the race. Oh! Sheshinin's got a puncture, right front puncture, and he's spreading all sorts of rubbish on the circuit. That's a big shame for our Russian friend. Vladimir Sheshin fighting for the top 10, but he's going to be out of this first encounter. Outside of the top 10 point scoring positions. And he's, I wonder if that was contact or whether that was simply running off the road. Either way, there is now bits of bodywork and bits of tyre around the second half of the lap, and our leading contenders will need to be mindful of that, because they'll cut those tyres easily. The bumpers aren't carbon fibre, but they're fiberglass for lightness, so not quite as dangerous as carbon fibre shrouds would be. But I can tell you that Sheshinin is now in the pits. So we lose one of our 15 runners. In the background there was some tyre squealing. I think that might have been Attila Tassi getting it a little bit wrong. Meanwhile, we take a look at the battle for 5th between Borkovic, Grashov, Fullin and Kajaya. Yellow flags flying there. Now, is that because of the carcass of the tyre? I suspect so. Oh no, it's a bit early in the lap actually at turn 8. Let's have a look to see if anyone's missing off the timing screens the next time it updates. Either way, here's Stefano Camini, now with a 3.6 second advantage. That Volkswagen with its slightly lower ride height this weekend, and a circuit that favours it is working incredibly well. In the all-time record, Stefano Camini has the most wins, with 7 wins in the TCR International Series over the 2 years that it's been running. Oh, that looks like Sheshinin might have had contact with something yellow, a barrier perhaps. I think he may have hit one of the barriers on the inside, so that would have been a right-hand corner, so maybe turn 10 perhaps. We've got a couple of Tech Pro barriers on the inside of the turns to stop these touring cars from jumping across the curbs, because the curbs are quite low to be sympathetic to Formula 1 cars, but in a touring car you can smash over them. Bit of two-wheeled action, and if you do so, then you cut the corner, and basically you need to create some rules. So we put some Tech Pro barriers on the inside of various turns. It could be turn 7, that could be turn 10, or even turn 5. Either way, Sheshinin has made a mistake, clipped one, and caused himself a puncture. Still have Mikhail Grashov under investigation for a false start. He's just ahead of Peter Fullin in the Alpha, who's P7. He's pulling away from David Kajaya in 8th spot, and here is a battle now for 9th between Matto Hommeler and Jean-Carl Vernet. Again, we don't know what happened to Vernet earlier on in the race. Trying to see if there's been any contact, any kind of look that he might have had contact with another driver. He wasn't really with anybody to have contact. Either way, he looks to the inside of Matto Hommeler and moves up into 9th position. Nice and easy move that, no contact needed. And that's 2 points to his tally. Remember, he is fighting for the championship, Jean-Carl Vernet. It's about 30 points down, but he has the car underneath him and he has the teammate as well to prove that that car is capable of it. Shout out for Peter Fullin, best running position so far in the Alfa Romeo. Best result for the Alfa Romeo, P9 in Oschersleben last time out with Michele Ceruti. But Fullin has yet to finish in the points, and there is a replay of Vernet. Lovely stuff down the inside. Stefano Camini then rounding the final sector of the lap. Coming towards turn 15 and then 16. You've got to be tidy through 15 because it's very off camber. The curb on the inside and the apex much higher than the outside of the turn, and it kind of forces the car off towards the exit. So kind of don't really attack 15 and be tidy for the exit of 16 to then through these final 2 turns, 17 and 18 at the end of the lap. He clicks off another one and we move on to lap 7. Big gap now of 4.4 seconds to Oriola. Morbidelli. It's going to be a strong position for Morbidelli if he stays where he is right now in 3rd spot. His run of results has not been particularly strong for Morbidelli. He's been consistently collecting points, but the last time he stood on the podium was all the way back to Estoril, where he had a very good weekend. He was the most successful driver that weekend in Estoril, but Estoril was the 2nd round of the championship, the 2nd weekend of the championship. Rounds 3 and 4. We're now on rounds 13 and 14, so Morbidelli will be loving the place that he's in now. Look at this, Peter Fullin on the back of Mikhail Grashov. I hope John Gentry and the boys of the the Romeo Ferrari team are patting themselves on the back because they've done a great job with this little Alfa Romeo Giulietta. And Peter Fullin has found a sweet spot this weekend and he's challenging Mikhail Grashov. Boss the championship, Marcello Lotti wanted Fullin on the top step of the podium, but he didn't get a great start from P5 and he's now in P7 trying to recover from his lackluster start. Again, crawling all over the back of that Honda. Worth pointing out that the Alfa Romeo has a 1750cc engine, whereas of course the Honda and the Seat and the Volkswagen have 2-litre engines. Now, balance of performance in the TCR series plays in favour of the Alfa Romeo to try and make them equal as possible, but they are disadvantaged on power. Waiting for the 2-litre Alfa Romeo engine to come on stream from the Giulia that was released actually just a couple of weekends ago. Producing 500 horsepower in road spec, their amazing 2-litre turbo engine, and that is what's going to be put into the Alfa Romeo. So no further action on Grashov. That's very unlike race control to take a look at a race start and then decide no further action. But good news for him. However, bad news for Sergei Afanasiev, who has a drive-through penalty for track limits. So Sergei Afanasiev is going to have to give up his P11. It's not going very well for the Russian. He's at the back of shot there, and he is going to have to pull into the pits. Into the slipstream, Peter Fullin through turn 1 and heading down towards the braking zone at turn 2. This could be a change for 6th position. Grashov goes defensive. Confirmation of Sergei Afanasiev's drive-through penalty for track limits. Jean-Carl Vernet down the inside into David Kajaya as well. I think that's going to change hands. Fullin hasn't managed to get alongside Grashov, and they're side by side further back as well. Kjaer trying to go around the outside. That's not going to work through this 180-degree left-hand turn. And Venet then moves himself up into 8th position. But what about Peter Fullin? Again, he's a little bit closer to Mikhail Grashov, but he's just not strong enough under brakes to get it done. And then Alfa Romeo's just running out of puff a little bit down the straight. Volkswagen versus Volkswagen further back. Kjaer wants to get that place back. He looks to the inside, but cannot find a way through under brakes. Better through the corner again, though. Carries more momentum onto the back straight. This turn 10 of the circuit. That's where the barrier has just been dislodged, so that's where Vladimir Shishkin hit the Tech Pro barrier. It's no longer over that curb. This is the main focus. A little mistake there from Mikhail Grashov. He's in P6 at the moment, but he missed the apex to that turn. And now he's going to be compromised all the way down the back straight. In the slipstream once again, Peter Fullin. This is a great place to overtake into the braking zone of 13. You're in on the turn, on the left-hand turn, but Fullin is a little bit too far back. He has a look, and Mikhail Grashov covers it over, and that's going to invite Jean-Carl Venet into this party. Round the fire station. Not really a place to overtake here. It's going to have to wait now until turn 2. And Kjaer is going to look forward to that as well. Oh, Fullin slowing up. Maybe that was just because he took a slightly tidier line through 15 and 16. But for the moment, he's not on the back of the Honda. Meanwhile, Sergei Afanasyev in the back of shot pulls into the pits to take his drive-through penalty. Kamini still leads, Oriola second, Morbidelli third, Nash fourth, Borkovic fifth, all having lonely races. And then this great battle, Grashov, Jean-Carl Venet, Peter Fullin, and David Kjaer also involved. Got to say, Matto Homola really doesn't look like he's got the pace of a champion this weekend. Venet on the brakes, harder down the inside to claim the apex at turn 2, and he does so. He passes Peter Fullin, but Peter Fullin has an answer and tries to go all the way around the outside. Surely that's not going to happen. He's going to run out of radius. Yes, he does. He falls back into position, but this is where the Alfa's really good through here. It's been really, really strong. No understeer through this really long left-hand 180-degree turn. And now out into the back section of turns. Homola and Jean-Carl Venet run wide on the exit. And into turn 10 now. Venet up to 7th, Fullin down to 8th. Tassi's moved ahead of Afanasyev because Afanasyev has gone into the pits, and it just was later on the brakes from Venet, claimed the apex, and of course Fullin carried more momentum through the corner, so therefore then it tried to find a way through, but chose the outside line, and it was never going to work through turn 3. There's Nash. He is in 4th, Borkovic is 5th, and there's Kamini's advantage to Oriola at the front of the field. This is going to mix the championship up all over again with 2 laps remaining. Most importantly, all the cars seem to have survived this other than Vladimir Shishkin. No damage to anybody, not too much contact, and therefore we can have a healthy race too. Last few events, it's been a bit of a lottery if you could get into the second race, such has been the drama and contact in the first of the encounters. Very quiet between our front 4 competitors. Borkovic comes through in 5th. Then Grashov now with a little bit of breathing space to Jean-Carl Venet. And Peter Fullin with Kjaer, and Matto Homola perhaps will be able to find a way through past Kjaer. Homola in 10th position, 1 sole point out of 11 laps of effort around the Sochi Autodrome. It's not great. Not for a man who wants to fight for the championship. No, Fullin needs to get his head down. ETCC champion, both in rear-wheel drive BMW and front-wheel drive SEAT. ETCC being the European Touring Car Championship or Cup, recognised by the FIA. Matto Homola also a champion in that series. Dusan Borkovic was also a champion in that series. And this is the next step. Come to the TCR International Series, have a great time, enjoy yourself, enjoy your racing, and also have some great on-track action. Hommler just misses the apex a little bit, has to run wide to get away with it without losing too much momentum. But what was a really, really healthy battle with Grashov has kind of calmed down a little bit now as we come to the last few laps of this race. Ooh, bit of an oversteer moment going into, what was that, turn 8, I think, from Matto Hommler. Meanwhile, another look at Camini around the back of the circuit. And then through this difficult braking zone at 13. Kind of still turning. You're trying to get the brakes on and you're trying not to lock the left front wheel, because it's kind of unloaded when you go through 12, and you want to get it as loaded up as possible before braking for 13, otherwise you're heading off into the scenery. Lap progression, the gap's come down. Oriola's been chipping away at Stefano Camini, which bodes well for the second race. Maybe Oriola has better tyres in the late stages of the race, or maybe Stefano Camini's just taking it easy. Either way, the two championship protagonists from 2015 are going to rejoin battle in 2016 as well. There was never any doubt that the Leopard Racing team were going to get themselves together with WRT support, well, run by WRT, money from Leopard, the natural energy drink, and with two incredibly talented drivers in Stefano Camini, the champion, and Jean Calvinet, the single-seater convert. They come into the championship and within 3 weekends score their first victory in Spa. Vinay's had 2 wins this year. Stefano, with just a Seldom win, took first legitimate pole position yesterday and now is looking to take his second win of the year to add to his tally from Imola's race 1, which was, by the way, a crazy affair, but he kind of kept out of it. Remember, you can catch up with all the action of the TCR International Series on our YouTube channel. All the races from 2015 and 16 are there. So make sure you scroll through our archive and watch all the best action, both in highlights and in full racing form. Share it, tell your friends about it, and let's make this one of the best touring car series in the world. Of course, we have TCR International, which you're watching, but we have national series in all kinds of different areas. This weekend, we're supporting the TCR Russia Championship. Last weekend, we were supporting the TCR Germany Championship. There's Italian, Benelux. There'll be a Central America, a Middle Eastern Championship. And the idea is that those champions come together in the international series once they've won their nationals and show what they're worth to the world. Stefano Camini, champion last year after repeated championships in the Renault Clio and the Megane Trofeo. Comes towards the final 2 turns of the Sochi Autodrome. Victory in race 2 in 2015. He clearly loves Russia. He comes towards the checkered flag and takes victory in 2016 as well. A clean and decisive victory ahead of Pepe Ariola, the championship leader, in second. And Gianni Morbidelli will be on the podium again in 3rd position after a really long drought of 8 races without a podium. The rest of the top 10 come across the line. Peter Fullin, 8th spot for Alfa Romeo. And Fullin then claims more points for the Romeo Ferrari team. Here he comes. And the remaining competitors with Michaela Cerruti and Sergei Afanasiev in 14th. Just outside the points. The Russian flags fly in celebration, and Stefano Camini heads back towards the pits. Not long before the second race of the weekend, so cars need to be in a good shape. They will go down into the Parc Fermé situation in front of their pit boxes. Then teams will change the brake pads, the tyres, refuel the cars, and then head straight back out for race 2 of the weekend, the reverse grid race, the reverse top 10. And there's no doubt that that is going to get pretty tasty. Jean-Carl Vernet probably not so happy with P7. Got to find out perhaps from our intrepid reporter down in the pits, Mark James, who'll be getting quite a tan at the moment, what exactly happened to Jean-Carl Vernet, because he managed to evade our cameras with his little issue. Either way, he finishes P7 and he'll start in P8 for the second encounter. Quite sure why Stefano Comini wants to stay off the racing line, but normal convention means that it just raises the ride height a little bit. You pick up some marbles that are distributed around the circuit, and then when the car goes on to the ride height check, it raises the car just a little bit, and obviously the cars are conforming within the regulations anyway, but it gives you a safety margin in case anything has happened. Here's confirmation of the results then. Comini takes victory by 2 seconds, but he did definitely back off at the end of the race over Oriola and Morbidelli. Nash 12 back, then Borkovic, Grashov, Vernet, Peter Fullin in the Alfa Romeo P8, great stuff. Kajaya 9, and Hommler, a Seldon point in 10th spot. So cars coming into the pit boxes, they pull up in front of their garage areas. The teams are given a certain amount of time to fix their cars, so they're in Parc Fermé regulations right now, and then that will be opened up for a period of 15 minutes to get the cars sorted for the second race. Still haven't asked Stefano Comini why he does that celebration with the horn. I hope it's not rude, but if it's Stefano Comini, it could mean anything. Celebrations with the Leopard team. The number 1 on his car, the number 1 on his drinks bottle, and the number 1 on the results of this first race here in Sochi. 2 visits to the Sochi Autodrome and 2 victories for Stefano Comini. Work going on the Volkswagen there. You can see on the 19 car of Vladimir Chechien, so he did do a bit more damage to his front right corner than simply a puncture, and therefore he's broken Parc Fermé regulations. He won't be able to take up his rightful grid position for race 2, and he will drop to the back of the field if they can get that car fixed in time. For the rest, they'll sit in Parc Fermé conditions. And here is the driver's points then. Oriola extends a lead to 9 points, but over Stefano Comini now, who is up to second. Nash drops to third, Hommler drops to fourth. Hommler 25 back from Oriola after his disappointment. And then Morbidelli, Vernet drops down as well. And Afanasiev, Borkovic, Grashov up to 9th, and Pellenin drops to 10th.
Stefano Comini, a dominant lights to flag victory. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, and thank you Leopard Racing, because this time, the first time during the season, the car was really a bijou.
How difficult is it to keep concentration when you're out on your own like that and nobody's fighting with you?
It's not so easy. To look it from TV is quite easy, but it's not so easy. I tried only at the start to go away from Gianni and Pepe, to try to be fast on the first 4 laps. And after I look at my gap, began every time more and more and more. And I tried to be consistent and very fast. I did quite a race simulation. I wanted to look what was the potential of the car. I was every lap 110% to try to look if for race 2 can be a good car, and I hope I can be on the podium for race 2 again.
Good luck, well done.
Thank you.
That's what I love about Stefano Comini. A super, super fun guy to enjoy the weekend with, but when it comes to racing, he has got a very sensible head on his shoulders. He thought about exactly how to approach every single lap of that race, and he now knows what he's got under himself for race 2. The podium awaits our top 3 of the TCR International Series Race 1 from Sochi, round 13 of the championship. And it's going to be a second race victory of the year for Stefano Comini. After victory in Imola, Gianni Morbidelli will step up onto the podium first. The first time we've seen him on a podium since Estoril Race 2. Trying to work, it's been so long, you can't even work out where it is. Oriola, second in the championship, more important points in his pursuit of championship glory. And then Stefano Comini, his 7th podium of the TCR International Series, his 2nd win of this year, and now the national anthem. So the 4th victory of the season then for Leopard Racing, the 4th victory for Volkswagen in the 2016 season, equal now with Honda. 4 wins apiece between West Coast Craft Bamboo and Leopard Racing. And Comini with his 2nd victory equals Grashov and Venet. Only Oriola has done better so far in 2016. Credit and kudos to the Leopard Racing team, run out of the Belgian WRT team. GT Masters, rear-wheel drive masters, but they've had to learn front-wheel drive along with Jean-Carl Venet, and they have done an amazing job. Great to have Volkswagen, SEAT and Honda on the podium, showing the strength in breadth of this championship. 4 wins for Volkswagen, 4 wins for Honda, and 5 wins for SEAT in 2016. No champagne, of course, spraying in race 1 because these poor drivers have got to go and sit in their cars and boil again. We've got more racing for you, though, coming up in a few moments' time. Race 2 has got all the ingredients for yet more action from Sochi.